Hello, Gutsy Women. It's Dr. Brenda, and we are here with another Gutsy Women profile. And today I'm speaking with Becky Mosbrucker. And Becky is an expert on women's safety and is developing her own programs and courses. Welcome, Becky. I'm happy you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, can you give us a little bit more background to just launch us off? And by the way, Becky and I were just laughing because I had the chickens parading behind me. So, if you see any chickens, yep. So anyway, enjoy the chicken show. So, Becky, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm not going to go into the whole history of my life. That would take a while. So let me say that I have learned to be a gutsy woman based off of a divorce, and was married for about 18 years the first time, and have two wonderful children and five grandchildren from those two. And luckily, some of them live close to me, some of them do not, which is very sad and shame. So I have to travel to Arkansas at least once a year to go see the other family. But I learned to be self-sufficient at the age of, oh golly, let me see, 35. I stayed with my ex-husband for a long, long time for the family, which a lot of ladies will use that term. You stay together to keep the kids safe and to be, keep the family unit going. And a lot of mental abuse from my ex-husband. And when I started getting to the point where I was going to work in tears and immediately getting out of the car and going into the restroom and crying, people started coming up to me and saying, what is going on? Things don't seem right. And then I finally realized, I cannot continue to go on like this. So we got divorced, and I had my two kids with me for a number of years, and then we kind of went a process where we split them up. They chose, one child went with me and one went with their dad, and that was terrifying and hurtful, and that was not good. None of it was good, but we all came through it, and everybody understands, what happened and what did not happen and why it happened. And I think my kids are better parents for having gone through some of our issues, but it made me learn very quickly that I needed to do something for myself and for my kids. And so I kind of started taking, second jobs to make more money. My divorce was very bad for me because I ended up having to pay child support to my ex-husband, who made more money than me. It was a total disaster. I should have fired my attorney. I've learned the hard way. But anyway, so I learned, there's some things I could do, get some second jobs. I got into selling gourmet food, doing home parties and that kind of thing at night in people's houses, which, 30, 25 years ago was not a bad idea. Would never do that now. And, we're in some places, in some cities where I did not feel comfortable, and thought I should probably seek out some kind of training for women, some kind of self-defense or some kind of awareness training, just so that I could be more aware of what was going on around me in places where I was not familiar. And quite honestly, I could not find any of that out in the market. I joined the NRA, and started taking pistol classes, and decided very quickly that I've always liked teaching people. I teach at my full-time job, have been for about 25 years. So got my certificate in basic pistol and started teaching women how to use firearms. And that went on for about, I've been doing that now, I guess, almost 6 years now. And then started transitioning more recently into teaching more about situational awareness and teaching women how to be aware of their surroundings and what's going on around them, and especially with all of the rioting that's been going on this year, and just the crazy atmosphere that we're in. Teaching women how to be aware of what's happening around them, not always physically, although that's a huge part of it, but culturally. I don't even want to get into the political stuff, but just making sure that you're aware of what's going on in the world, not just in your little city or your little town, although that is a huge part of it. And so I started teaching because I couldn't find anything that I was looking for out there. They were all taught by men, which is not a bad thing. But when it comes to firearms, men don't know how to carry a firearm in a purse, right? And so some of the instructors that I was teaching with were coming to me, asking me for my concealed carry purses so they could practice, because they don't do that. So I learned very quickly that there are not a lot of women instructors, and there are not a lot of women's groups out there that focus on teaching women how to use pepper spray, how to use stun guns. And I know it sounds kind of silly maybe to think that you need an actual class on how to do that, but it's not just the idea of pushing the button and activating something. It's knowing when to use those things. And fire gun or spray, there's a whole training level. Start off with this is the next level, this is the next level, and a lot of people don't know that. They don't know where to start. They're not sure how things should escalate, whether they should leave or they should fight. So it's been a very interesting journey for me. I feel like I'm self-taught. A lot of information is not out there. So I have a few mentors who teach pistol classes, and so we do a lot of communications back and forth, and a lot of idea bouncing and saying, if this happened, what do we do? And so I'm in the middle of putting together a committee, very similar to what you, Dr. Brenda, are doing with your Gutsy Women. That's why I love this idea. And it'll be more focused on what to do if you get caught in a situation, like, not necessarily how to fight, although that will be part of it. To get away long enough to get to a phone to call or if you're in your car, what do you do if someone starts coming up and banging on your windows or on your windshield, which is happening. It's amazing the stories that I'm reading about what's going on out there nowadays. Yeah. And that's something that I teach. Everybody should be aware. It's not just the women, right? I mean, men too. But physically, men are usually built a lot stronger and have more muscles than the women do. So they have a tendency to fight back much easier than we do. A colleague of mine is a real estate agent, and most recently had an attack on her where she was at an open house, showing house, to people who, just come in and are interested in the house. And was almost beat to death with a hammer because he came at the end of the open house as she was closing up and, attacked her. And if she had not had a little bit of some self-defense training, she would not be around to talk about it. And it's very, very, very sad. She's going to have mental issues for the rest of her life from one attack. And, she was by herself, like most real estate agents are. And, her supervisor is instituting a policy now where if they are involved in an open house situation, there are at least two people there.
Right.
And they're going to be armed with something, not necessarily a firearm, but protection, some kind of pepper spray or something. They're going to have something with them that they can use besides their fists, to fight off people like that. And I mean, I actually sold real estate for a while, and I was lucky never to have anything like that happen to me. And when I heard about that, I thought, how many real estate agents are out there? There's millions of agents, and how many of them have thought about that? I've talked to some here locally, actually, and they're kind of like, COVID has kind of turned things around, sometimes in a good way, because now they're doing open houses virtually. They're not going in person. One agent told me that if she ever does go in person, she tells somebody where she's going, what time she's going. She gets a copy of the driver's license for the person that wants to see the house, so she already knows who it is. So someone can give that to the police in case something happens to her. And I work. Go ahead.
Okay, so Becky, let's. I mean, first of all, folks, I mean, we've got some connectivity issues, so I know that there are parts of this that may be frozen. The audio's kind of going in and out. We're at a good place right now, so I'm going to jump in and I want to ask you some questions. So, I mean, one of the things we've never talked about, and I don't think I've ever shared, is that my previous career, I worked evaluating grant programs from the Violence Against Women Act. And so I traveled around the country and I looked at domestic violence programs, mostly that were conducted by prosecutors or law enforcement. And I've talked to so many domestic violence survivors. And in fact, one of the things that surprises me the most about, I think you're the 18th Gutsy Woman interview I've done so far in the last few months. And I would say at least half of them have brought up on their own being in an abusive relationship. It may have been psychological abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, whatever type of abuse. They've talked about this and how they had to escape that type of relationship and start anew. And a lot of them have lost money in the process, big time. They just wanted out of the relationship. And so I want to kind of go back into the way that you were brought up. I mean, were you expected to, go to high school, maybe go to college, get married, have your kids, be the good wife and mother? I mean, can you back us up and sort of talk about the expectations that your family might have had of you?
Sure. I was raised in a very good Christian home. My parents were supportive of me all along the way. I did lots of extracurricular activities when I was in school. I went to a junior college. I got a 2-year degree. My parents were like, yes, we're going to get you in some kind of school. We did not have a lot of money, so a junior college was all they could afford. And I did that. I actually got married at 19 while I was still in college. I had one more semester to go before I graduated, and we got married. And it's kind of funny. My mom kind of was like, I'm not so sure about this guy. And I didn't, I thought I was in love. I mean, I was in love at that point, and no matter what she would have said, I was going to go through with this wedding, and it was good for a long, long time. It just gradually got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And yes, certainly one of those who lost a lot of money in the process.
It's interesting too because now you think of, I mean, you've got kids, and if you think your kid being 18 or 19 and getting married, it would be just like,
Right.
don't. You're just, your brain isn't even developed till you're in your mid 20s. So I mean, you're still a kid when you got married.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. My uh, in my childhood, we lived in Indiana. So I was born in Florida. We moved to Indiana when I was 6. I attended school all through, elementary, middle school, high school, all in Indiana. And then my month after I graduated high school, my parents moved us back to Florida. You talk about a culture shock. And of course, none of us kids were happy. We had to leave everything we knew. And I don't want to say, that I got married quickly because I was unhappy. But I think there is some degree of that, in play there. I did not know where we were going to end up because my ex-husband was in the Navy at the time. And so, we were getting transferred all over the place. So I never had any idea that I would ever get back to Indiana where I grew up. But I did not know where I was going. To me, that was adventurous. I was kind of like, okay, once I moved, back or to Florida from living in Indiana all those years, I thought, well, maybe this will be fun. Maybe every few years, we'll pack up and we'll move somewhere new, and I can, start all over with a whole new set of friends. And I mean, that was fine for a while until you start having children. And then you have to uproot everybody to move, and that becomes more challenging. But I think I had a very simple home life. I was very, very lucky, I think. My parents loved all of us children and took care of us very well to the best of their monetary abilities anyway. So I don't think it had anything to do with it. I think my ex-husband's family background was not very good. His dad left his mother when she had 4 boys at home under the age of 4. No, under the age of 6. And so he did not have a good representation, of a father in his life. And unfortunately, that carried through, to the way he treated our children and the way he treated me. And, he did not grow up with a good atmosphere.
Yeah, can you talk a bit about, so the statistics show that women who are in abusive relationships, they often leave like 6 or 7 times before they finally leave for good. And can you talk about the courage that it takes to do that, and advice for other women who may be watching this, who are like, yeah, I, I need to know how Becky got that courage.
I did not really think it was as bad as it was until my coworkers started saying, we know that something is wrong. And I would be like, what are you talking about? And they were like, you can't come into the office and cry for a half an hour every morning without something going on. And I was like, it became a habit so much so that I didn't even realize it. And when they started pointing it out to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, you are so right. I can't do this. I mean, and it took me probably at least a year and a half before we actually split up because I got some help from my mother monetarily because I had no money. He watched, every penny that I spent. So I couldn't get any money out of the bank without his knowledge. I mean, it was totally a control situation. And so I got an apartment. I signed a lease. My mother helped me with the deposit. Got all of that in play before I told him that I was leaving. And of course, when I told him, it was, It was a huge fight, which whatever. So I had to get things in place before I could actually leave because I had no money. I had no way to get any money. For someone who does not have family, who has any extra money, I would maybe suggest trying to take on a part-time job, even if it's 2 nights a week or something to be able to try to get out of the house so you have at least a little bit of money so that you can put something down on an apartment or on a, whatever facility, whatever you need to do to get away from the situation. Now, certainly, if he had been physically violent against me, I would have called the police immediately. I did not have that experience. He never laid a hand on me, so I don't have advice for women on that, because on the outside you can very easily say something like, the first time he lays a hand on me, I'm out of there. Well, that's not always true, and these people sometimes convince you that you can't live on your own and that you can't get a job, and they beat you down in more ways than physically. So I would contact like a domestic violence hotline in your area. At least call and just get some information. You don't have to call them and say, yes, I want him arrested. You can call them and just say, I just want some information. I'm in this kind of situation, or don't even tell them what kind of situation that you're in. Just say, I want information in case, whatever happens. They can give you, information. They can give you, steps to take. They can give you suggestions. Certainly, if I thought somebody was being violent against me, I would be calling the police. I have heard so many stories, probably like you, of women who never reported anything to the police and being abused many, many times, and the police have no record of it. And then, the wife one day just loses her mind and hurts the other person, and then the police are like trying to get her in trouble, and they're like, there's no record of abuse here. Report it, ladies. Report it to somebody.
Yeah, the domestic violence organizations, one of the really great things they do is safety planning, so that when things happen, you know how to access, especially the money, and who to call and what to do. But I've also been in jurisdictions where the police have told me, we keep going back to the same house, and now we just flip a coin to see which one we'll arrest. And
Right.
so, when you report it and then you get a really poor response and you feel threatened, and then especially with people who have, may have questionable immigration status, you're really trapped in many ways. I want to talk a bit like that mental abuse and to always feel like you're put down. How did you personally go from that to sort of trying to regain your confidence and realize that I am worth something. I can do great things. How do you build yourself back up psychologically?
That definitely takes time. That is not an overnight thing by any means. Um, I was lucky enough to be at the job that I'm still at now, and I had a lot of coworkers who supported me in leaving my ex-husband, and they would remind me of good things that were going on in my life, and the fact that I was away from him, and I'm raising these two children on my own, and I'm still working a full-time job, going through this whole entire crazy process. And my faith in God helped me get through it, because I knew down deep inside that I was a good person and that I could come through whatever anybody threw at me. It may take me some time to work through it, yes. But I think maybe, the push with my coworkers and my family were 100% behind me. They all knew that it was probably a matter of time. And now I have been told that red hair And it used to be a lot. I've been told that red-haired people have a tendency to to say, show me something I cannot do, and I will show you that I will get it done. We're headstrong. I didn't. I think a lot of it was I didn't want him to get inside my head anymore. It was, you are not. I am away from you now. You are not going to beat me down anymore. I am going to, rise up above this stuff that you've done to me, and I am going to learn, to be a better person from it. And I was single for, I don't know, 4 years before I met my current husband, and quite honestly, wasn't looking at all for any kind of relationship. I was just happy to be on my own, getting my kids through school. We were paying to put them through a private school, which they had been to all their lives. And so I was busy concentrating on them, making sure that they were getting through the divorce process as well as we were, and really wasn't looking for any of that, and had no intention of getting remarried, at least not that quick. And my current husband had gone through a divorce, and so he kind of understood what I was going through, and he was a big help to get me out from underneath the rock. Basically, we just started out as friends. We just chatted. It was like nothing was going on. We were just bouncing ideas off of each other. He was raising his kids. I was raising my kids. And, between him and my friends and my coworkers, it really helped to get me to realize that I can do this on my own, and I don't need to be under him, my ex-husband, or be, under somebody's thumb, and just get me out there and let me show the world that I can do this. Now, it took a few years to get into the self-defense, firearm industry, because I really wasn't planning on doing anything like that. I really was focusing on what can I do to help my kids get through this. And then once they got older and got married and started having kids, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. They're grown adults now. It's time for mom to, look around to see what's going on in the world and start making some changes for the women, because there's a lot of advocacy out there, for sure.
Yeah. So I kind of, my formula that I use is very basic. I talk about dream, plan, save, do. And I've also lived at times of incredible poverty and hopelessness. And at that point, I feel like I don't even know if I had a dream. It was just survival. I've got to make it through today. And then, you get out of that situation, and you begin to dream again. And for me, like, the dreams get bigger, and they get very different, and they get more colorful. And I'd like to find out, what are your dreams now? I mean, where do you see things going? Where would you like to be in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, golly, let me see. My big dream right now is to get more safety information out to every woman that I come across. I want to wake them up. I want to make them aware of what's going on around them before they see it coming, right? And I hate, I love cell phones. I'm a big technology person, but I see people walking through a parking lot with their heads down and they're texting on their phone. I just want to come up and it's like, wake up, pay attention, don't do that, whether they're male or female. I don't care. Too many kidnappings. There's just too much craziness going on out there. I just want to wake everybody up. So I've been on my job 28 years. February will be 29. So, retirement is creeping in there. I haven't decided when I want to cut the ties. I really like my job and I like my coworkers. But, there will be a time, sometime probably in the next 5 years, but I will retire from that full-time job. And my plan is to keep training more women on safety, being more of an advocate for women's safety, and, maybe step into some domestic violence roles as some kind of, administrator or instructor. I am working with an organization called Fear to Freedom, and I'm going to be one of their ambassadors pretty soon, where I go around talking about their organization and what they do. So it will be certainly something that will be along the lines of women and women's safety, domestic violence, something in that category. I don't want to limit myself, so something in the women's safety world.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, I think I would do better if I were to limit myself, because it's like when you have all these ideas, it's like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I think that's part of like what makes women gutsy, or just willing to take a few risks. So being an RVer, there's always lots of discussions online, as you know. So there are women RVer groups, and it's interesting because it seems like there's this like when somebody asks about safety, there are others that are like, you have to be afraid of everything. And then you get others who are like, well, if it feels wrong, then just leave. It feels unsafe, just leave. And one of the women is like, I have this friend that's just totally clueless. She doesn't have those those spider senses of oh, this could be trouble. So it's been really interesting to follow those conversations in the RV group, and how people are relying on, well, first of all, sometimes firearms, which frightens me if they haven't been trained, and I don't know that they have been, and then this sort of just feeling. So like, I mean, for my RVer friends out there, are there things that they should be particularly looking at or thinking about as they're, I mean, some are boondocking, some are in campgrounds like me. It's such a variety.
So I have this color chart that I use. Colonel Jeff Cooper created this color chart, and I use it in every class I have because of that same exact thing that you're talking about. A lot of people don't think about it. And it's a color-coded chart based on awareness. So people that are in the white color are like clueless, aren't paying any attention to their surroundings. They have no idea. They're like the head of the cell phone, right? And then there's a yellow color chart, which means, oh, you see a few people passing by, and okay, fine, whatever. You saw them, whatever. You couldn't describe them to the police, but you did see them. And then there's like the orange color, which is you're more like in the spidey sense mode, like you're watching people all the time. Doesn't mean you have to be afraid of them. It just means you see them. You see the guy wearing the trench coat in the middle of summer. If there's someone wearing a trench coat whether it's business, in a campground, in a church, a synagogue, and he's wearing a trench coat and it's 90 degrees outside, you should be paying attention to that. It does not look right. Even if you didn't think it felt bad, it doesn't look right. There's something odd. Maybe he's just got a little issue. Okay, fine. But he could probably have a whole nother plan, that's not going to have a good outcome. And the red color code is, it looks like someone's coming to attack you, and now what are you going to do? And then the black color code is you are in the fight. They are actually physically hitting you, and how are you going to fight back? So there are things that people can learn to do. And in my classes, that's what I'm teaching, is kind of the color code system in a shortened version. And I don't think everybody needs to be scared all the time. I think they need to be aware. There's a difference, right? You don't want to go through life scared every single day of your life. No, that will send you into anxiety, which will send you to the hospital. You do not need that. You need to be aware of what's going on around you, and you need to have a plan. So I like your idea of having a plan, because you need to have a plan on how to respond. to whatever comes your way, whether it's just somebody saying something nasty to you verbally or somebody getting, 3 inches from your face and now you have to physically defend yourself. You need to know what you're going to do. You certainly do not want to wait until it happens to you and then have to decide at that instant, what are you going to do? It's too late then. You need to have just these in your mind, what might happen and how you're going to react.
It's kind of interesting because I'm in Texas, and we're in COVID season. Most people are pretty good at wearing masks, but then you go inside a restaurant or a bar and the masks come off. And I have been very in tune to, like, okay, that guy's drunk and loud and noisy. And because of the whole mask thing, it's like, okay, I think there's a place sitting outside. I can go outside. But I wonder, some of the things that we're thinking about to protect our safety in terms of being around maskless people are things that we kind of are starting to integrate on a larger scale. So, I mean, I am becoming much more, and then the politics, so it's like, okay, if I see this guy decked out in all of this regalia talking loudly, I'm going to avoid, because that is a danger signal. So between the politics and the COVID, I feel I'm much more on edge than I have been in a long time. So that's my reflection.
I agree with that completely. I also think that it has heightened your awareness and other people's awareness of things that may or may not look right. So in one way, COVID and the masks have made people start paying attention, because now you're looking at everybody's mask, or you're looking to see if they're even wearing a mask. So now you are basically forcing yourself to look at their face. And that's one thing that the police have said to us quite often is sometimes people can't identify who the guy is that attacked them because they weren't paying attention. They weren't looking. So they're always, telling us things like, when you walk by somebody in Walmart, test it with your kids. Play this little game. Like, pass somebody and then say, what color shirt was that guy wearing? And you'll see your kids like turn around and go, no, you can't do that. You have to, it's a game we're going to play. You have to tell me what color shirt, how tall was he? How much do you think he weighs? Like any markings on his face. I mean, that will help start training you so that if you ever get attacked, God forbid it ever happens, you can maybe start training your mind to start picking up those signs, right? When I go to the gas station and I'm pumping gas, I'm not just standing there looking at my gas in my car, my gas pump. I am looking all around me. I'm looking at everybody at every gas pump. I'm doing the guessing game. I'm like, how tall? How much do they weigh? Do I see any unusual markings? I'm putting people out in my head, going, can I identify that guy or that woman? It's not always the men that are doing the attacking, certainly. Can you, point out that car? Do you know what kind of car it is? Do you, have the license plate number? I mean, I'm like playing all kind of guessing games in my head with myself. And I'm getting way better at it now than I used to be. So it's kind of funny, but it is making you learn, even if you don't want to, how to look at things a little bit differently, not scared, but aware. You're paying more attention, and that's a good thing.
Right. So, Becky, if folks want to contact you, you have a website, forwardsafetytraining.com. Is that the best way to reach you?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And do you have any last words for the women out here listening in?
I just encourage every woman out there to, start learning about your surroundings, pay attention to what's going on. If you feel like something doesn't look right, it probably isn't. My local police department here has said that we can call 911 for anything. It doesn't have to be, just that you're being attacked. Anything that looks odd to you, looks strange to you, call them and report it. That's their big thing around here. A lot of people don't do that because they don't want to get involved or whatever. Be careful out there. Pay attention to your surroundings. And if you want more information about the classes that I'm going to be teaching online, go to my website. There's a block right on the front page where you can email me any information, any questions you have. It's all going to be done online because certainly not doing classes much in COVID times, but I'm hoping for a better 2021, and hopefully this COVID stuff will calm down and we'll all get back to normal life sometime soon, and just hope that everybody stays safe out there and just pays attention, be aware.
Thank you so much, Becky. And again, if you want to reach Becky, go to forwardsafetytraining.com, and I'll have a link that you can click on. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And Gutsy Women, folks, that's it for another fabulous episode of the Gutsy Women Files. And until next week, next Wednesday, you take care. Bye-bye.